It's Carly McAvoy. This is part 4 in my series of how to find an equation. In part 3, we found an equation given 2 points. In part 1, we found the equation given 1 point and a slope. And in part 1, we were given the slope and y-intercept, and we just had to plug them in. So now we're moving on. The slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, and our slope formula is given here. We want to talk about parallel lines. Parallel lines have the same slope, so here's an example, y equals 3x plus 5 and y equals 3x minus 1. They're not the same line because they have different y-intercepts, but they have the same slope, which means they're parallel. And perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals to each other. So for example, if I had a line that had a slope of negative 2/3, then the negative reciprocal of that means we're going to flip it to be 3 over 2 plus change the sign to be positive. So these two lines have perpendicular. That means they would form a 90-degree angle if graphed. And then over here are lines that are not parallel or perpendicular. We can say they're some kind of similar, one's a half, one's 2, but they're not negative of each other. They're not the exactly same of each other. Those would just be two lines that are not parallel or perpendicular. So here's the first example. Find the slope of the line that is parallel and perpendicular to the given lines. So first of all, we want to find the slope, just the slope. We're not asking to find the whole equation here. So to find the slope of this line, I would need to solve for y. And to solve for y, I would just add 2x to both sides. Adding 2x over here makes it go away, and adding 2x over here makes it positive. So I know that my slope is 2. So that means anything parallel to this line would also have a slope of 2. What would the perpendicular to this be? What would be the negative reciprocal of 2? Well, 2 is like 2 over 1, so flipping that would be 1 over 2, and then make positive into negative, and this would be the perpendicular to that. What about if you had a constant line like y equals 4? What's the slope of that? Y equals 4 is a horizontal line, so the slope is 0. That's true for all horizontal lines. Parallel to this then would be any line parallel to this would be a horizontal line, so they would all have slopes of 0. But perpendicular to this would have a slope undefined because it would be a vertical line. Horizontal and vertical lines, horizontal are 0 and vertical are undefined. The line perpendicular to y equals 4 would be any vertical line. For example, x equals 2 or x equals negative 17 or anything that x equals is going to be perpendicular to a y equals number graph. Okay, number 3 says find the slope-intercept equation of a line that's parallel to this equation and passes through this point. And how would that change if our line was perpendicular to a given line? So first of all, what is the slope of the given line? I've got up here that it's 2/3, but how do I get that? First, I start with this and I move the 2x to the other side. And I'm going to do that by subtracting 2x from both sides. I still have negative 3y on the left, but I have negative 2x on the right. Now I'm going to divide everything by negative 3. Y over, this should be negative 3. Sorry, I had left that off. Negative 3y over negative 3. Negative 2x over negative 3, and 5 over negative 3. Now, if I simplify that, I just get y on the left, and I get positive 2/3, and I get negative 5/3. So that's how I get a slope of 2/3. What's the slope of a line parallel to that? Well, parallel lines have the same slope, so it would also be 2/3. If it was perpendicular, which is this thing they ask up here, then instead of having a slope of 2/3, I would have a slope of negative 3 over 2, because I would flip it upside down and make it negative. To find the equation of this line, I'm going to plug in the x, the y, and the slope to find b. So my y is 4 and my x is negative 3. And so if I plug that in, the slope is 2/3. The x is negative 3, the y is 4. And I'm going to solve that, or simplify that to solve for b. And so I can see that these 3's would cancel, leaving negative 2. So I have b, 4 equals negative 2 plus b. Add 2 to both sides, and that would be b equals 6. If you're having trouble solving these equations for b, look back at my videos on solving equations to get help with that. We've kind of moved past that here, so I'm just really briefly talking about it. The equation of a line passing through this point and parallel to that line is this has a slope of 2/3 and a b of 6. So our final answer would be 2/3 x plus 6. And the last one is talking about find the equation of a line that passes through this point, -1, 3, and it's perpendicular to this given equation. Well, this given equation has an f of x, which we can replace that with y if we're not talking about functions. So I can see that my slope here is -3 and my y-intercept is 5. I'm not going to have the same y-intercept from my equation, but just so we can see what we're talking about. So the slope is going to be -3 and we're given a point of -1, 3. So the first thing we're going to do is figure out the slope of the line perpendicular to our line, which was -3. So this is like 3/1. We would flip it to get 1/3, and it was negative, so it would become positive. So we'd have slope is positive 1/3 for the perpendicular line. Now we're going to plug in x, y, and slope to solve for b. We have our y is 3, our x is -1, and our slope is 1/3. You can see that -1 times 1/3 is -1/3. So that looks like 3 equals -1/3 plus b. And I would add 1/3 to both sides, which would give me 3 1/3 or 10/3. So now I have my b, I have my m. I'm going to come in here and plug those in. Y is 1/3 x because slope was 1/3 plus 10/3 for b. And that is the end of our video sequence for this class, and I hope you have a fantastic day.